and welcome on in, one and all, to the WyoNation Roundup. I am your host, Chad Smith, and as you can see, this is not an episode of the Brady Bunch, but it almost looks like it. To my right here is Mr. Brad Reed. Hello, Brad.
Hey, guys. Good to see your faces.
Below him, Mr. Brian Stevens.
Gang's all here.
That's right. And then bottom left, Shay Foster, out there solo on the East Coast.
That's right. Keeping the time zones covered for WyoNation.
There we go. Yes. Yes. So if you are watching this on Twitter, your best viewing experience is going to be on the YouTube channel. Maybe while I'm talking here, maybe Brad, if you could drop the YouTube channel link below this live video, because we know the Elon's doing Elon things and we don't know what's going on with that. But head on over to YouTube at WyoNation and you can see this live. We'll take your chats, but we are in the football off season and there is basically no downtime. But before we get to that, I know Brian will jump through this computer screen if we at least do not talk about last night's game in Logan, Utah, where the Wyoming Cowboys held pretty tight there, Brian, against a really good Utah State basketball team.
Yeah, they looked much improved. You know, they were 18.5-point dogs coming into the game, and they lost by 3 with, honestly, a pretty solid chance to win it. Like, they were in this game for the entirety of the game. So there's nothing to be ashamed of with that. Obi Agmem finally became the point guard that we needed him to be. He had 1 turnover, but he had 10 assists. That's what we like to see. Nesbitt almost had another double-double, although his turnovers kind of didn't do us any favors. And we finally came to life behind the three-point line. So that's a really good Utah State team. That's a really hard place to play. And we didn't come out with a win, but losing by 3 in that, with how we had been playing, how Utah State had been playing, and considering the environment, I'm pretty impressed. All our rankings went up across the board, even after the loss.
Yeah, no, it was great to see. And still kind of the things that have been bugaboos kind of kept us from winning that game, even though we played well.
Not necessarily. They worked well on the press break. Press break looked good. Free throws, they were 7 for 9. So it's just instead of Agman having the turnovers, Nesbitt had the turnovers this time. So yeah, they're moving in the right direction.
Okay, and then what is next up, Brian? I don't know off the top of my head.
Next up is the University of South Dakota Coyotes next Tuesday.
That's on the road, correct?
I believe so.
Okay, and that'll be a good test too. They're a decent team, or they were. I don't know how they started this year. I mean, you might know.
Yeah, no, they're having a pretty decent year.
Yeah, so no, really encouraging. And then, of course, I mean, how close were we to going to overtime with a 3/4 of a court shot there at the buzzer?
Oh, and that rimmed out, man. That's heartbreaking to see, but
pretty close.
That's really good. So 2 back-to-back losses to 2. We should have beat Loyola Marymount, and we could have beat Utah State. So I had one of my friends tell me last night, I see a lot of things on this team that maybe we aren't so bad, and a lot to say maybe we aren't so good. So but still kind of a work in progress.
But as we said, they are very entertaining.
Very entertaining. It's a fun watch. If you can get to a game in Laramie, it's a good time.
All right. And then below me here, Mr. Wrestling will get upset if I do not get the wrestling report from Shay. Shay, I know they've got a pretty big tournament going on coming on Saturday, right?
Friday and Saturday. So the CKLV is probably the second biggest tournament behind the NCAAs. No Jory Volk this weekend. Not sure what's going on, but I know last week Stockton O'Brien wrestled and he was sick. So you'll see a backup at 125, but you'll see Riley Davis back at 174. So that's big. And then the Knightenbach kid at 184 is one to watch. AJ Ferrari is not wrestling, so
is he in prison?
Probably. I was Joey Novak will have a good. I think he can beat AJ, but it's just it makes a path for Joey to probably have a good chance being the number 6 seed. So we'll see how the boys do starting tomorrow at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. I'll have to do the conversion for you guys, so I'll keep the updates going. And unfortunately, last week I couldn't keep. I didn't do my write up for Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma dog was sick, but she's good now. So this week I'll do the write up for the wrestling team.
Great.
We still got one undefeated guy on the round. Jared Hill.
Hill, yep, the Oklahoma transfer. He flexed on the coaching staff last week when he won. So
As he should. Yeah, and this 7 of the top 10 teams are at the Cliff Keen this week too. So not gonna be many matches off this weekend, I don't think.
No, so we'll see how it goes.
And then for those who want to tune in, is it like on Flow or something like that?
It is on Flow, and then following CKLV, they go to Penn State, which will be on the Big Ten Network.
Okay, yeah, and that will be a really big one.
It's a big deal.
For sure. Getting that road duel. That's a big road duel. It's a long trip, but well worth it.
Yeah, and Penn State's returning next year, so hopefully Wyoming plans a weekend that it lines up to like maybe a football or basketball.
Yes, just so you could come out, right?
That's it. That's all I'm going for is that.
That sounds like a great WyoNation road trip there built in.
Yes.
It's been a while since we've done a tailgate. We might need to start that again.
Just for wrestling, though.
We can tailgate for wrestling.
Tailgate for anything. I've seen us do it.
All right. And I guess with that out of the way, we'll maybe end the show with some more lighthearted stuff, but let's get into the football mix. And before we start talking about the off-season stuff, just maybe a quick word or two from each of you, starting with Brad and going around the horn, so to speak. Your thoughts on the Washington State game, which a pretty surprising victory. Again, another Wyoming team that was 20-plus point underdogs getting a win against a future or current Pac-12 foe.
Well, I guess I would start off with raise your hand if that result surprised you.
Oh, yeah, I'll raise both.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody seen that coming, and I don't think Washington State saw that coming. And being able to basically hold one of the top offenses in the country in check, I think that showed a lot of character for the team in that they could have easily packed in the season after the border war, and the border war just was horrible. But they put up a lot of fight against Boise State and put up a lot of fight against Washington State and beat them. So finishing the season on a high note like that, I think is a good thing for headed into the off season, and maybe it'll mitigate some of the disaster that could happen. But I think it's really encouraging. So that's a great win for the team, and the Cowboys were playing on their second string quarterback for all intents and purposes. And, so I think that was good. All
right. Brian?
Yeah, to echo Brad's thoughts, it was really encouraging to see both the schemes looked really good on both sides of the ball too. I think Jay Johnson's offense has got a lot of promise to it. Aaron Bull was obviously figuring things out this year, but it seemed like he kind of got it together towards the end of the season. I think one of the things they were really missing this year was some of that leadership that guys like your Frank Crumbs and your Andrew Peasley's brought along. I think they were still trying to figure out who the leading voices in the locker room were. So I think we started to see that towards the end of the season. We started to see people holding each other accountable. So I think we're going to see some good things next year. I sincerely hope this is an anomaly because towards the end of the season, we saw some promising things.
All right. And I know Shay has he's been talking about leadership all season.
Yeah, it was nice to see the team captains actually play the best. And, credit to Bergnoli for playing injured, and Kane Barnett played injured. And Joe Tripodi, the offensive line started like crap to begin the year, and they've been super injured. But, man, credit to that coach. because they didn't miss a beat. It didn't matter who was playing on that offensive line. They're playing extremely well. It's just frustrating to see, hey, the last game, this is where we're going to turn it on. And it looked like they were playing Connor Shate, the middle linebacker, which is something I called back earlier in the year, that they should switch their linebackers, and maybe it played dividends. But, kudos to the team, and I guess we'll see what happens at the offseason, missing 2 defensive linemen now, but we'll kind of see how that plays out.
Yeah. And so with this new college football calendar, you end your season and there's no time to rest. It's right in the signing day. Chase Hoppel held his press conference. The Wyoming Cowboys signed 21 players yesterday. And looking at the mix of the players, I think they did a pretty good job of adding at positions they really need. But there is still a lot of work to do. I've got some notes here I'll run by you guys. Let's see here. So they signed 21, and Savell said that is just a starting point. Their plan is to sign 18 more. So let's put that into, I guess, focus with this new 105 roster rule. So I broke down the roster, and they did a similar analysis to I do, because when you add up their 21 plus their 18, guess what you get to when you add players and subtract players? You get to about 105.
Okay.
So
I thought they were going to be like 110. I thought we were going to see more cuts.
No, but I think you will. So here is the balancing part. So right now on the roster, they have 117 listed. If you subtract 50 players, which is, what do I have written down here? I do 19 seniors roughly graduating, 28 walk-ons who are kind of in limbo, and then 3 transfers now, maybe 4. I've heard Reed's son listed on sites as in the portal, but I can't find a post by Reed's son saying he's in the portal or a newspaper report. But for some reason, people are reporting that. So I didn't add him. But when you take your 117, you minus that 50, and you add 21, who they've signed, and another 18, which they say they're going to sign, that gets you about to 105. The problem with that, though, is there may be some walk-ons that you want to keep, right? Mainly the kicker, Anderson out of Cheyenne, is probably a guy you might want to keep around. Again, he was a preferred walk-on, probably going to get some type of scholarship, I would guess. Punting-wise, I don't know anything about the backup punters, maybe some kick returner type of thing. So it's a little wishy-washy. Nobody asked him that question yesterday, if there are any current walk-ons who might get put on scholarship as part of that additional 18. So I don't know. Any thoughts on, the painfulness that we may see because it's just a lot of players, 28 walk-ons who are probably, most of them are out the window if they're going to sign 18 more kids.
Well, Savell yesterday in his press conference alluded to he needs players that, love football.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they want to do. They want to play football. They eat, sleep, and breathe football. And he alluded to there were more than a handful of players on the roster that didn't fit that mold. So I will imagine we'll see some guys that we probably think highly of and may have been good contributors that we're not going to see next year, because they're going to be told, listen, you're not fitting the culture of what we need. You're talented, but you don't buy in as much as we need you to.
Yeah. And that's what this roster limit does. It makes a lot of hard choices. And again, basically nobody likes it. Everybody hates it, but it is the rule of the land. And, but again, we don't really know the rules. I think the assumption is that you'll have to get to that 105 number for fall camp. So you could keep these guys around for spring. And I think spring will be really competitive all across the country in college football. And then after spring ball, you're going to see another just flood of people in the portal.
Yeah, that 1 week. See, you got three kickers on the roster right now. They're probably on a scholarship. The kid from Colorado. There's 2 kids from Colorado. One's a punter, and then Sandvik from Steamboat is a kicker. And he's been on the roster for a couple of years. So it is going to be interesting. I know everybody loves Wyoming kids, but I don't know maybe he gets the Hathaway and he helps out Savell. If the Hathaway scholarship's a good way for some of the Wyoming kids, even though Chase Hatch decided to sign for Boise State.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
We'll
But-
talk about that. I was going to mention that. But yeah, so
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Chad, but like, you don't have to give these guys full scholarships. Like you can
yeah,
scholarship into half now.
correct.
Yeah, and Sawville alluded to that yesterday too. He said, if you have 10 guys on an 80% scholarship, you've got another scholarship. So, paying most of the way, and they've got academic scholarships covering the rest. That's going to be tricky. I'm kind of wondering if we're going to see a football GM position similar to what we see on the basketball side now.
Oh, you're going to have to with this. Yep.
I would say FCS has been doing half scholarships forever. So, I mean, it's not a new concept.
We're going to see Andrew Luck at Wyoming, that type of position.
Exactly, yeah. Stanford hired him as their GM. Pretty much every Power 4 school has a GM. So that's something I would expect Wyoming to hire. They did ask him the scholarship question, and he said that right now their goal is to offer 95 scholarships, and that does include the halves, which I did not know that was the rule until last week. So as Brad mentioned, like you could be on a 3/4 or 3/4 athletic scholarship and maybe get a quarter academic, and those add up, right? You get maybe 10 guys on a quarter academic scholarship, then that frees up more athletic scholarships. So I think that's a good start, 95, but I think in the future, if the rule is going to be 105, if you want to compete for Mountain West titles, you're probably going to have to find a way to fund all 105.
So the thing we're going to see is a lot of these football players are really smart guys. John Hoyland's an engineering major. Chase Roulier got an engineering degree. Will Pellissier was a academic all-conference. Like, you're going to see those guys that are able to pull some academic scholarships, and it's basically like a salary cap situation in the NFL. They're going to take less from the football team because they're already getting it on the academic side, and that's where we're going to see the balance come in.
Yeah, but I wonder, just like the university politics of that, right? To where if these football players start getting academic scholarships, how much of an outroar that may cause.
Be smarter.
Well, I mean, but you know what I say. What I mean by that, I'm sure, is that they may be getting those that they may not actually have earned, just to make that buck stretch a little further.
If not, Wyoming's going to turn into JMU and just flip the script with student fees, athletic student fees. That's all that's going to happen.
I was just about to say that. I was like, if the students don't like it, they can raise student fees to cover this, and they're not going to like it. I thought Nevada just approved a student fee raise for $350 a credit today to fund their indoor practice facility.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, and you know what? The way Wyoming is going to be on a budget crunch after this payout that all these schools are going to have to make after this house settlement that probably is coming. Student fees are probably going to be jacked up to cover a lot of this.
Well, good luck to JMU. They're already the highest in the nation.
Yeah, really? Wow.
By a lot.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like $1,500 a student, I think. It's
all right. We'll get into some individual guys, just some more general notes. Sawville yesterday mentioned that with some of the high-profile 3-star guys that we got, most notably Pace, who I didn't know until the press conference is the son of Orlando Pace, which is quite amazing. Mm-hmm. He said the game day atmosphere really was a very positive recruiting tool, and some of these kids just couldn't believe how great of an experience a Wyoming football game was. So everybody in the state of Wyoming should really give a pat on the back, cheer for yourselves, because even Sawville said, hey, we just went to a supposedly school who wants to be in the Power 5, Power 4, and it was basically a funeral there in Pullman.
There was nobody there.
Yeah.
Also, thank God the recruits came during the Boise game and not the Idaho game, because it was a freaking church at the war during the Idaho game.
Yeah. So they mentioned the BYU game was a big recruit one, and the Boise game was a big recruit one. So good crowds in those, a lot of energy. So again, that does help. It shows that people care, and believe it or not, I mean, it does influence kids.
Yeah, the Washington State doesn't surprise me. I went to that last time Wyoming played at Wazoo a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was, for being a school with, Pac-12 money, it was just like, whatever, cool. Nothing big.
Well, Brad, they're $40 million in debt, so.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think they were $40 million in debt then. They definitely are now.
They're in a lot of trouble. Is Wazoo.
I'll be very interested to see how this whole Pac-12 thing shakes out, because as of today, they're still not a conference.
Correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder with the Wazoo game too. Like, we're deviating a little here, but
No, you're good.
I wonder if it was satisfying for a few of the coaches on staff to hand Jake Dickert a loss.
Well,
I mean, how many of those guys were on staff when Dickert was
I don't
there?
think there's probably many, but
Mike
you
Grant,
figure a guy like
maybe?
maybe Tom Berman or something.
Yeah.
People that were around when Jake Dickert was here, and it's he's poached so many recruits from Wyoming.
there was a brother that posted Twitter like calling out Dickert, so
Was it one of the Petrinos?
it was Petrino's brother called out Dickert, and then right after the game they fired their DC and their OC got hired away. So we may have broke them.
I was going to say that. Yeah, we broke them. Their OC went to Oklahoma. They fired their DC. And then today, their quarterback hit the portal, which we all knew was going to happen. But
wait, did Mateer hit the portal?
Yeah, of course he did. He's going to get paid.
Well, he's going to Oklahoma, so.
Do you think he's going there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was one thing I saw today is like, well, the OC is at Oklahoma now, so why wouldn't he go to Oklahoma?
That's true, yeah.
Because Oklahoma had a quarterback hit the portal this week, so.
Yeah. And Oklahoma's got deep NIL pockets.
Yeah. It was funny to watch Petrino call out Dickert, though. That was probably the funniest thing I've seen on Twitter all week.
That's funny. I'll have to look that up. All right, some other news and notes from Savell that you may find interesting. They, in this next group of 18 players, he wants to sign 3 to 4 more secondary players. And we'll get more into that. He says 2 more high school players could sign this week. They're in kind of battles with some Power 5, Power 4 schools to maybe get 2 more guys. And then he said in the next group would be, he didn't say kicker, but they asked him specialist, and he said yes. So that leads me to believe a kicker or a punter. And based on what we have on the roster, I would lean towards punter than kicker. What do you guys think?
They tried both of the kickers on the roster as punters last year in spring practice, and it did not go well.
Yeah.
The punter that's on the roster, I think they got him after spring, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
the Sandvik kid was pushing Hoyland. Like, he can hit some 55-yard bombs. So it's got to be a punter. They got to be looking in the portal for a punter.
Mm-hmm. So we'll see. So that is something to monitor as well. And then he actually went through like positions. Like, I've never seen a coach do this. Like, actually say what positions are needed and how many we need of each, which is refreshing, I guess. But he mentioned specifically because we need a backup quarterback now, because it was also announced that Evan Svoboda will be moving permanently to tight end, will be taking no more reps at quarterback. So he's going out as a winner. And
it's his fault too, which, they talked about Svoboda's character all year long, but you can really see it with how the players respond to him. And now he has decided, hey, I'm a crappy quarterback, but I want to be on this team. How can I help?
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how he works out.
Mm-hmm. So you got Batiste, right, is the name of the freshman, who we don't know much about, and Droob. And he said, hey, either of those guys I can't rely on in playing in a game, and I don't want to ruin them. So he specifically said, Savell, that they are going to get a JUCO quarterback. And he didn't say portal quarterback. He said JUCO, which leads me to believe they've got maybe 2 guys that they're pretty sure that they'll be able to get one of them. I know Shea's got a guy who may be that JUCO target.
Yeah, it's a D1 bounce back at Iowa Western Eckers. He just missed the mold of Wyoming recruits. I guess we'll see. It's going to be hard to recruit a JUCO quarterback that comes in and he's going to want to start. So how hard they push Caden, or is it going to be like last year, they're going to name the quarterback before the season, or are we going to see some competition?
We should. Yeah. I mean, when you go 3-9, every position's got to be open, right?
Yeah.
But we all know how that worked last year for us. Okay, more notes.
So,
Oh, go ahead.
didn't we have a quarterback on the roster from Natrona?
He must be a walk-on.
When I was
There's a
looking at that,
defensive tackle from Natrona.
I don't think there's a quarterback.
we had a quarterback on the roster, another quarterback that was behind Anderson.
Yeah, Gage.
Gage Brook.
Gage
He's
Brooks,
from
yeah.
Fort
He's a
Collins.
walk-on, and I'm guessing he's gone
Okay.
with the roster crunch. Yeah, I'd be very surprised if he's still on the roster. And yeah, that's the big question that I've heard a lot of schools talking about with this new 105. How many scholarship quarterbacks can you theoretically keep on that roster? Is that number 3 or is that number 4?
You have to have at least 4 on a college team.
Yeah.
At least.
I would say your number is
If not
probably 4.
5.
Because, I mean, we've seen it at Wyoming, right, where 2 quarterbacks get hurt in the same season. So,
Well, wasn't it one of the Josh Allen years where we were on like quarterback number 3?
or 4, yeah.
We had Sam Stratton coming back from wide receiver to play quarterback.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
True. All right. Other roster notes, he mentioned that he wants 2 transfer wide receivers out of the portal.
Oh.
Also a transfer defensive tackle, and they want to also sign a high school tackle, 2 transfer linebackers, and 2 transfer safeties. Is what they're looking at.
Interesting.
Do we just tell him now that we're linebacker you?
Yeah.
Linebacker should be pretty easy to fill, right? Just
You
showing.
would think so, but they had the guy from VMI that they got in this year, and I don't think he ever saw the field.
He
other
played
than
in
2 games.
4 games. Now, I tried to get some info. I haven't received it yet. But my only thing is if he's still on the roster, and I'm not sure if he is, that they decided to redshirt him because he only played in 4 games. But I don't know, right? He came in as a grad transfer. Not sure what his academic situation is. But I will try to figure out what's going on there. But yeah, very odd.
He's coming from VMI. I'm sure his academic situation is fine.
Yeah.
Well, he may not want to do another year of school, is what I mean.
Sure.
Right? Because he came in as a grad transfer. He could have finished his master's degree or whatever, or a second bachelor's and said, no, I'm done. So that is a thing to talk about. The other thing that he mentioned that was quite interesting, and this could be a good topic of discussion for us, is he said that when we're going into the portal, he's like, you're probably not going to hear of many of the guys we're going to get, and you may not even know their schools, because he says they're going to primarily focus on outside the P4 for the transfers. And he said that he had a conversation with Dillingham out of Arizona State. And what have they done? He said it's better for you to build your team to find kids who are going up a level than are going down a level because they're going to play harder for you.
Cam Scatabo.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, that dickhead like robbed the Big Sky for a bit of his roster. Like 2 of his best players came from the Big Sky Conference.
I know, yeah, exactly. So it seems like Salvell's bought into that, and he thinks so. Look for a lot of FCS transfers coming to Wyoming, which works. That's fine. And he also specifically mentioned, well, a couple years ago, we're pretty excited about the basketball team, getting guys from USC and UCLA, and how did that work out? And you could even talk about this football team, right? Devin Body Jr., Texas Tech, gone. King,
Yeah, he was
Texas
fantastic.
Tech, gone. DJ Jones, North Carolina, gone.
Yeah,
We've only
but I don't
had-
want to miss out on like a Ja'Cory Hawkins.
Yeah, I
think-
know. Yeah, but that's an
I
example
think
where
there's some
Hawkins
talent
snuck
out
in.
there.
I mean, he's been the exception to the rule at this point, though. Like, Chad's totally right. And
Yeah.
Sawville's got a good point. Like, all these guys that are coming in from these bigger schools trying to make a name for themselves, and they've all flamed out.
Yeah, so
Now we
something
have
to
look
monitor.
at the Sun Devils roster to see like how much of their, because we looked at this before the season, but
did.
their roster was just freaking loaded with transfers. Like their entire roster
Yeah.
was basically transfers.
They had Arizona State had more transfers than CU.
Yeah.
I remember talking
You guys
about
think
that.
that there was a problem in Wyoming's locker room this year? Then, do you think some of the guys were?
I think there was a
in the
lack
locker
of
room?
leadership. I think there was a lack of senior leadership.
I think that the coaching change, the lack of having Craig Bull, kind of created a vacuum, a leadership vacuum, and there were no players who could really step up and fill that. So I think it has to do with both. I think the coaching staff was probably a little tight-knit, and then the players kind of didn't know how to respond, and it made the problem worse than it actually was.
Well, I've heard from some people close to the program that guys like your Frank Crumbs and your Andrew Peasleys were badly missed.
I believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
I believe it. All right. Moving on to like some specific kids. Let's start with the Wyoming group. 2 Division I football players in the state of Wyoming this year. Drube, quarterback, and then Lawson, the offensive lineman. Any thoughts on those 2 guys from any of you?
Well, I think Drew was probably the top recruit in Wyoming, so keeping him home, I think, was a big win for the staff because, guys like him that are highly sought after often leave for greener pastures. So being able to keep him in Wyoming, I think, is a win.
He had a couple big offers too. He got offered by BC, he got offered by Michigan State. Like, he had options, and he stuck around. And as Savel was saying, like, he was recruiting for him too.
Yep, doing some peer recruiting, which is always big these days.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Mason probably would have been your number 2 this year. It should have been Caden and then Mason if Mason was on the roster. The Lawson kid had some big offers too. I think like Wazoo had offered him. So it's interesting that Star Valley like dominates the 3A of Wyoming, and they never get like Wyoming offers. Like, it's like their team doesn't get a ton of football scholarships.
Yeah,
which is interesting to me. But
I think there's a lot of pull for them to go one state west too.
yeah,
BYU did offer Lawson.
Oh, did they? Well,
yeah.
I mean,
and the big thing with Lawson is, right, he's got good size to be a D1 lineman. And kind of the problem at Wyoming, right, you guys have all seen high school ball in Wyoming. Not prototypical college football size, right, on the line.
Or if they are, it ain't muscle.
Yeah, exactly.
And if it is, they don't stay here.
Yeah.
yeah.
Correct. And then I know, Shay, how much do you know about Chase Hatch? Unfortunately, he is a Cody athlete. It looks like Boise signed him as a linebacker. Probably a pretty easy decision for him to go to Boise.
I don't know. What's weird is you got Atalich coaching Cody high school football, and that's 2 recruits that have left. So it's kind of, and I'm not going to say I believe his son like, going to Notre Dame, good for him, but Chase going to Boise State, that's painful. And maybe if Wyoming is a winning team, they pull him.
Yeah, I can't fault a Wyoming kid to go to Boise.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
and then who knows, some of these Wyoming kids sometimes go somewhere like I'm good and they end up coming home. So
true. Yep. With the portal, he may not, in 2 years, he could be in Laramie.
And there are some like a Theo Dawson that are on the roster for a year and then they transfer out. Like, it's just because they're Wyoming kids doesn't mean they're going to stick around. As badly as we want Wyoming guys on the team, as much as we love having them here, it doesn't always work out.
Sure.
Speaking of the Taliches, did you guys see Nick Talich at Notre Dame run that interception back a few weeks ago?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was awesome.
So painful to watch.
It is painful.
He's a walk-on. He's a walk-on at Notre Dame. So maybe with roster cuts, he shows back up at Wyoming as a transfer.
There we go. They don't give him a scholarship, for sure. Huh?
That wasn't Nick, Brad. Nick is on the Wyoming
Cowboys.
He's a linebacker.
Who is it then? I get them confused.
That's his cousin. Nick is his cousin. Is it his brother?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would get him confused. The Taliches I know are. I forget the kid's name, but good for him. It might be Luke Talich.
Luke, that's what it is.
Luke, yeah.
Yeah.
He knows. Roster cuts. Here we come, baby. That's our transfer
I like it.
DB.
Maybe. All right, let's get this up on the stream.
I get the impression that he's sticking around Notre Dame. They are pretty high on him.
That place is ridiculous. They just print money there.
Yes, Brad was just there not too long ago. As we
They're just
outlined.
casually building a $350 million football building next to their probably $500 million indoor practice facility.
So here's the full list of signees. One JUCO, BJ Inman, cornerback out of Snow College, same college that got us Evans Svoboda. And then here's the rest of your list here. Anybody that jumps out at you guys that think, might be someone who we could see as a true freshman, even though at Wyoming that's getting exceedingly rare to seeing like a true freshman starter, for example.
Just look at the size of Jonathan Bush. Like, that's a big guy coming in.
6'2", 290.
You'd probably see DeBlanc at wide receiver just because TK transferred. If TK wouldn't have transferred, I would say you'd redshirt him. But you're going to probably see a safety, maybe Kimball Turner, who already has the size. Like I don't want to butcher the kid's name. And Pofo up top is only 155, so he's probably not going to be starting at safety this year. But
No, yeah, I didn't see that. Wow. Yeah, that's.
Any linebacker on the roster, because clearly they're not high on any linebacker on the roster, which is weird to me that they're going to pull in transfers. And
yeah, you got Parker Moore, maybe.
Yeah, Sawbell said Bauman was the second coming of Chad Muma, so it's very frustrating.
Yeah, and so let's talk about that. Right. So again, signing day is great. Everybody wins signing day, right? You could watch any press conference and you think, "Oh my God, my team got 20 future all conference players." And we heard all this stuff, right? We heard about Bauman never got in the field. We heard about Chris Durr. They didn't really quite use him properly. But again, wide receiver is a hard position to play as a true freshman. I think next season will be a lot better with some experience under his belt. But Savell, I think part of his problem, and as I said, it's odd to complain about this because we're used to coach speak, but he doesn't give coach speak. He's probably too honest, and it gets him in trouble, like the whole Evans Svoboda thing earlier in the year. But yesterday he was going on about Drew, about how he thinks he could play at the same level as Washington State's quarterback. And I'm like, whoa. He's not even on campus yet. Why are you making comparisons like that to like one of the best quarterbacks in college football? Just be quiet.
Drew's the real deal, man. He can spin it. He's going to be a good quarterback.
Okay. But I heard that about Evans Svoboda, so why should I trust what Savell says?
Don't trust Savell, trust me.
Okay. There we go. All right, I'll trust you, Brian.
That would be good for a redshirt year for Mason, though, too. I mean, it's okay to redshirt.
He'll need a redshirt year to make sure that he can keep up with the speed of the game. But the arm's there, the vision is there. He's just got to get used to the speed.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's really good.
It will be an interesting exercise, like going through the 2024 recruiting class, the 25 recruiting class we're bringing in. It'll be an interesting thing to see, look back at these in a few years and be like, how many of these, because 24, 25, I think is when the transfer portal has like really been the hot topic, and maybe even like the 2023 season. But it'll be a fun exercise here, in the next 2-3 years to see how many of these classes have stuck together through recruiting and, how many of these guys we're going to see at senior day.
It's going to be low numbers across the board.
Yeah, single digits.
Right. And that's why this 105 roster limit is fascinating. Whoever can kind of find that secret formula to make things work the quickest, you're going to see a lot of teams come out from nowhere, I think, to just become real good. And you'll see really good teams, I think, fall apart if you don't get the mix right.
You're going to see some really good teams that have to get rid of players that are going to be able to play.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to see, a 4-star recruit that went to Florida because it was Florida, that's, buried on the depth chart, and he's not going to see time, and the coaches are going to tell him that, and they're going to make room for somebody that they need at another position.
Yeah.
Well, isn't Clemson still not offering NIL money?
I mean, they can say that all they want.
Yeah.
I mean, they might have a bagman somewhere, I'm sure, but just the way the Dabo Swinney has been about that, you got to wonder if a program like Clemson is really going to struggle next year versus Miami that's going to spin up another Ponzi scheme and start paying the players kind of over the table with a Ponzi scheme.
An over-the-table Ponzi scheme. I like it.
I think the reason you are seeing teams like Miami and SMU come out like gangbusters the last couple of years is because they already had the template in place, man.
Yeah, in the 80s.
They had their bagmen for years, and now they're like, sweet, we don't have to hide anymore.
Bagman's out of the closet.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Cam Newton is just furious right now hearing all this.
Right. Cam Ward, on the other hand.
Cam Ward's probably got a Lambo sponsorship or something.
Chad, to go back, you said Savell was going against some Power 4 schools for two high school players, and then Brian mentioned, I believe one of them, it's got to be Jaden Jackson. You mentioned gave a verbal today. He had offers from Texas Tech, South Carolina, Tulsa, and Boston College. So
gotcha.
Sounds like Wyoming got a win there.
Did they?
He's a big boy. You said a verbal, right, Brian? There was a random verbal from him.
Yeah, that's what we're seeing on Go Go's got that reported.
Okay.
Yeah. Shout out to Ian and the crew.
5'10", 220 is a running back.
What's his name again?
Jaden Jackson, Jay, like J.Y. Williams.
Okay.
Jeez. 5'10", 220, that's a load.
Last year ran for 2,400 yards and 33 touchdowns on 9.65 yards per carry in Texas.
Okay. Yeah, so that gives us, I think, 4 running backs in this class now.
Yeah, but they like to move running backs to linebackers. Here's the fun fact. Maybe they move Sam Scott back to linebacker.
I'm torn on that because Sam Scott's a really good change of pace back. I don't think he's a starter, but the fact that DJ Jones was getting carries over Sam Scott at the beginning of the season is absolutely insane.
What about Farrell over Scott there?
I'll give it to Farrell. Farrell got better as the year went on, but Scott was very clearly the number 2 running back in terms of ability at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
And I was blown away that he wasn't seeing the field because as soon as he started playing, the level of play went up on offense.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But if you get a good, decent, DJ Mayhem or Gali Muhammad, he's that good of an athlete. You put him back on the other side to help the team out if your running back room is good. Because you got Dwayne McNeely probably coming back. Hopefully he stays healthy, and Harrison Whaley and these young freshmen, these kids are redshirted like Nico Hamilton. You might as well send it, if you can.
Didn't Muhammad go the opposite direction? Didn't he go linebacker to running back?
Who?
He did.
Ali Muhammad.
Yeah. I think he went linebacker, running back to linebacker.
Yeah, he moved around.
Still coaching too.
He is. Just lost the last game to get to a bowl.
Wait. Oh yeah, he moved, didn't he? I thought he was still at Illinois State.
No. So I don't know. Wyoming's going to win some big recruiting battles because this 105 roster is going to kill those Power 4 schools to stock the talent.
Yeah, the ones that are just, handing out the preferred walk-on offers that are supplementing with NIL money. It's going to level the playing field for sure.
Sure. And I think, right, these really big schools, they'll still recruit like the high-level high school guys. Mm-hmm. But after that, they're just going to go portal, right? Because if you have a limited roster, why shop, at the dollar store hoping to, find a prize when you can buy ready-to-made players that will plug and play into your system?
Yeah.
So that's going to open up even more high school kids for places like Wyoming.
Problem is we're a really good development school, and then they leave.
Yep, and that is right. That's again, whoever can find the magic sauce to like get talent, develop it, and retain it is going to have a huge leg up on people.
Hey man, I'm fine with being a minor league team if we win games.
That's true too. Yeah, if we just become, hey, come to Wyoming and we'll get you to the Power 4, that's fine.
Still going to retain talent. You're still going to get talent here because of it. And even if Wyoming doesn't have, if they get better at NIL, I know they're like 5 years behind it. But if they even have a decent pot and they can offer a kid $100,000, but they're getting offered $500,000, maybe they just stay at Wyoming because it's where they want to be and they know they can get to the NFL that way. So
yeah, so it's going to be real interesting to see how all this plays out, and probably by the time everybody's figured it out, there'll be a whole set of rules that they'll come out with through some nonsense.
So one recruit I want to mention, it was kind of overlooked. He's a tight end out of out of Aurora, Cade Brook. Both his parents are Sheep alums. So I've got
right here.
I've got a buddy that used to work with his dad. He's like, I cannot believe he signed.
Well, he was recruited by the Sheep too.
Interesting.
So that's a big win.
Yeah.
Those kids usually do well at Wyoming.
They really do.
Brian Hendricks, he like gave up on his dad and his grandpa to come, and now he's coaching at Wyoming.
Yeah.
Gabe Macton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dewey Wingard, who played with a chip on his shoulder for the entirety of his career.
Yeah, I mean, that's funny that his dad's maybe a little upset. Now he's got to wear brown and gold when he comes up to Laramie. So, I mean, good for Jay. They obviously are saying the right things. It's just maybe my biggest frustration on the season. I don't know if they were playing the best players at all the times.
Yep, and I think I mentioned this in the group, but I'll mention it on here. I think that happened at a lot of schools. These coaches, right? They want to play experience. So with the COVID year, you have a lot of 5th and 6th year guys, and they're playing. But they may not be the best players because I think they're worn out, they're tired. They have no motivation because a lot of times they've just been handed the job, right? They're playing just because, right? A 6-year player is almost unheard of. And I think you saw that in a lot of college football to where some of these older guys played just because of their experience and maybe they weren't putting out the effort that they should have.
That's very true. So one thing we really need to talk about Landon Pace coming on. That is a big get. The offer list on this guy is absolutely insane. Just reading through it alphabetically on here, we got Boston College, Georgia Tech, Iowa State, Louisville, Missouri, Ohio State, UCF, West Virginia, Wisconsin, Notre Dame, Penn State, Tennessee.
You forgot Memphis.
Yeah, Memphis is in there too, but
what brings a kid like that to Wyoming then? Like, does his dad have a kind of a say in it?
I have no idea.
His dad was in Laramie.
Called out the Boise game for Landon Pace.
Yeah.
But his dad is, he's a Pro Bowler, right? So maybe he's like, hey, this is the program you want to be in, son. Yeah. This is the program you want to be in. These guys are going to develop you. And I know I mentioned this in our group chat, and I don't want Pace to come in and step on Tripodi's toes, but just maybe if his dad comes out and kind of helps out the tackles randomly, like, hey, this is what you do with your footwork. I think Wyoming would be remiss if they don't use a parent if he's willing, and maybe he just wants to be a parent and sit in the stands. I'm not going to force it on him. That maybe you get a double win, right? That you get that guy to come out on the practice field every once in a while to work with your tackles.
There's no rules on coaches. You could hire as many as you want. Let's hire it. Shay's starting it. Orlando Pace is the new assistant offensive tackle coach.
And you pay him $1.
Yeah. Exactly. I have not watched any film on Landon Pace. What type of tight end is he? Have any of you seen his highlight package? No?
Probably just a big guy that can get downfield. I mean, his dad had amazing footwork.
240, which is that's a good size tight end in high school, obviously. I mean, he's big enough to play in college.
He probably starts, or he's a backup to Gillenborg, but he probably is going to be the number 2 tight end. And this is not a knock on Schoenfeld or the Erb kid that walked on. There's another kid that may not be on the roster, Zach Erb. I thought he played well this year.
Yeah, Zach Erb's getting put on scholarship.
Okay,
yeah.
I thought he was a great kid.
That dude can block.
Yeah, but now you have this Pace kid, and we heard all the years the Trayton Welches and the Nate Weinmans, and they were in a terrible offense for tight ends, and now Jay Johnson targets tight ends like it's going out of style. You know, like the Clay Yankees. You know, maybe I like to see kids redshirt, but Pace might be too good.
Yeah,
his intangibles alone. Like Chris Durr is going to make a lot of mistakes. Cade Anderson's going to make a lot of mistakes. But man, you can't leave talent off the field like that if he's that good, you know.
The crazy thing about this, just looking at Landon Pace's On3 profile, they had him as a 75% chance to sign with Ohio State. Wyoming wasn't even on the list.
Wow.
Guy wants to play. That's probably what it come down to is playing time.
Sure. Yeah, because if you go to Ohio State as a tight end, you may not see the field until you're a junior.
You can fight Michigan at the 50-yard line.
Mm-hmm.
So we offered him back in May, and he had offers from Lindenwood.
Okay, wow.
Whatever. That's an FCS school in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech, Ball State. Yeah. Well, that's weird.
So he kind of blew up, you're saying, in his senior year, maybe.
Yeah, because his earliest offer, West Virginia offered him in 2022. Wow. As did Kentucky and Missouri and Ohio State and Boston College.
Okay, gotcha.
He's clearly smart. He's got the what's going on between the ears of Georgia Tech's offering him too.
Yeah.
So. And Wyoming was the last school to offer him.
Oh, yeah. I wonder if he waited too long.
Yeah, because he had an offer January of last year with Georgia Tech. Then Lindenwood right after that. Then
he may have waited. This might have been a win for Wyoming, and he waited too long.
Yeah, no, if you haven't following the recruiting trends, it's crazy. Like schools are getting their Power 5 schools are getting their classes pretty much filled before the season starts.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not committed before the season starts to a big school, they might not have room for you. Yeah.
Another surprise recruit we got at the last minute, Calvin Jansen out of Gretna, Nebraska. He's an interesting one. He came in last minute, and we heard that Drew did a lot of recruiting on him, but he was offered by every service academy. And looks like the other two D1s were NIU and Coastal Carolina. So he's probably got some brains going on too. But if you're getting offered by service academies, you're quick. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out.
He was also offered by Colorado State. Looks like Wyoming was winning the battle with Old Norvell down there. But you're right. He's 6'3", 280. That's a big boy. 290.
Yeah. He's one that we might see early. You know, you don't see offensive linemen early very often, but when you've already got that kind of size, and if the service academies are offering you, and the service academies do not redshirt, like you're coming in, you're going to play.
Yeah. You mentioned something about speed. This is one I don't like the punt setup in football, in college football, where you have the three guys back there. But one of those three guys before the punter is generally a lineman, is a blocking guy. So that could be a place you put him. If he's not going to be one of the starting five, I think Wyoming is really good starting five. But as you see this year, they're going to need good backups. But this guy might be your number 6 guy.
Yeah. Now, and that's not to talk down on anybody that's on the roster already. Yeah. We've got pretty good O-linemen on the roster currently. So,
and we'll see though. So again, the portal's not officially open, so I don't think you're going to hear most of your portal news until Monday when it does officially open. As we wrap up here tonight, Wyoming has 3 players officially in the portal. You can head over to WyoNation.com where we got the tracker that I put together. Right now, the only 3 in the portal would be J.D. Williams. Did I get that right?
Yep.
Mhm.
He's out the door, as is TK King. Very surprising, was just named All Mountain West kick returner out the door. And then today, just before the show, kind of very surprising to me, Braden Siders, defensive end, leaving when probably would have been a starter next year.
But he's been at Wyoming for 4 years. He's shown what he can do. He might be one of those guys that he's either looking for a roster spot or he's looking to play closer to home his last year.
Yeah.
That's all I can figure.
Well, he's from Colorado, so I don't know unless he's going to CSU or something.
Or CU.
Yeah. Oh, he's not going to CU. I'd be shocked if Dion took a guy from Wyoming, but you never know.
But we're assuming that Dion's even going to be there next year.
Oh, he will. He
Yeah.
will.
He and Shador might be in Dallas. Yeah.
Oh God. Jeez, please don't make that happen.
And so another note that I wanted to talk about before we wrap up that's transfer portal related is, like Siders is kind of a weird one. Like, I don't know if I'm like a mid-major football player and I haven't been tampered with, there's no way you could hit the portal because how do you know what's going to be available with the roster crunch?
But I mean, we've seen that already across the last 2 years. That's like,
it's only going to get worse.
60% of the guys in the portal never sign anywhere.
Yeah, it's going to get worse.
Like a DQ James that was getting a lot of time at Wyoming, and he hit the portal, and that's the last anyone's ever heard of him.
Yep.
On the football
Did he
field.
play anywhere last year?
No.
Yeah, and he was a good back. Yeah. I think this roster thing you're going to see, unless you've been tampered with and there's a spot for you, and you're going in the portal. You're flipping I don't even know if you're flipping a coin. You're rolling like a 12-sided die trying to hit 6 or something.
Spencer Danielson was crying today saying that like 13 Boise players have already been tampered with.
Bummer.
Yeah. Well, they spent all their money on Genty.
Yeah.
Bought him a house and a car. So,
hey, props to him for keeping him around because Genty is a legitimate Heisman contender. I still think Travis Hunter is going to win it, but Genty's going to be in New York for sure.
Genty said today too that tomorrow night's his last game in Boise. So,
yeah, I forgot about that. How about we wrap up the show with a little UNLV Boise State Mountain West title game in Boise Friday night on Fox, I do believe. Any thoughts on that game, boys?
I think Boise's going to roll.
Yeah, UNLV doesn't have the best defense.
UNLV's good. Don't get me wrong. But Boise's got a whole lot to lose if they don't win this game, and they're going to come out on fire.
Yeah, and how about major props to UNLV? I mean, how many teams could have their starting quarterback hit the portal, what was it, like 4 games in because of NIL dispute, and then you still make the title game in your conference?
He wasn't even that good.
Yeah,
their best player was on the bench.
Yeah.
Their other guy was like second team all conference. The guy that started 8 games the rest of the season.
Yeah.
I think they upgraded their quarterback
position
there.
I think so.
Hilariously, I don't even just a quick search. I don't see anywhere where Matt Sluka signed anywhere yesterday.
He can't sign yet.
Well, you can't sign yet. Yeah.
Monday.
Well, that's why you didn't
Monday
sign anywhere.
is when you can sign. Portal guys are fair game Monday.
I'm really conflicted though because I really want Boise to lose, but I don't think it's going to happen. Because it would just warm my cold, dead heart if Boise happened to lose.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. I haven't really dug into the numbers much, but if somehow UNLV were to win, would they be ranked high enough to get into the playoff or no?
Well, they take the top group of 5 champion.
Yeah, I know. So would UNLV be the top group of 5 champion?
Yeah, because they're the highest ranked right now because Tulane just got killed
lost.
Last week.
Yeah, that's right.
And Army is still behind them. So they're still – the Mountain West is still in the driver's seat for the playoff spot.
Okay.
There was a scenario last week – maybe it was last week where it was possible that Tulane could have snuck in to the playoff ahead of the Big 12 champion. And the Big 12 would have been left completely out.
And that's funny. Yeah.
And that would have been funny. But Tulane lost, and that didn't matter anymore. So,
All right.
but that was still assuming that Arizona State won the Big 12. Which, how about that, by the way? The team that we were kind of shitting on in our first podcast this year and saying, like, man, they got a brand new team. They got this coach. He's kind of young. We don't know. You know, they won like 1 or 2 games in the Pac-12, and now they're in the Big 12 that's even better than that. And they're playing for the Big 12 championship. Like, holy smokes.
Cam
What a
Scattergood
turnaround.
is probably the best transfer pickup of the season by a
I
lot.
think it's so
By
good.
far. Easily.
So good.
Yeah.
But that is hilarious.
And they can thank Wyoming for giving them that big boost of confidence to start this.
The game was painful.
Yeah. Yeah, it was all Cam Scattergood, though.
All right. Well, very good. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for this nice football discussion. First time all 4 of us have been on the roundup.
Finally.
Yeah, which is a lot of fun. And so, yeah, we'll keep tracking that portal. We'll keep tracking recruiting. It's going to be a lot to talk about in December as the comings and goings go. So brush up on your FCS schools. We'll be asking Brad a lot, I think, about some of these FCS transfers that are supposedly coming.
Say round 2 of the FCS playoffs are this weekend.
That's right. That is true. Montana will be at South Dakota State.
The
Probably
end
to
of the
lose.
Grizz football season will be Saturday afternoon.
Yes.
And unfortunately, Montana State's season will continue.
Yes, the Fighting Vegans.
Oh, come
FCS
on.
Coach of the Year, by the way.
Come on, man. It's got the same blueprint as Bowl. They can run all over everybody at FCS, and then they can't pass the ball.
So,
Well, they're
all right,
they're
everybody.
Their quarterback's up for Player of the Year too.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a finalist for FCS Player of the Year.
Well, all right, boys. Thanks for joining us tonight. And thank you for all of you out there for joining the WyoNation Roundup. We'll be back in soon to break down whatever news happens, because it will happen. There will be something to talk about here soon. So until then, everybody take care, and we'll see you later.